This show is part of the RetroZap.com podcast network.
On the last Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels, 3 voices became 1,003 voices. I have a good feeling about this.
Yeah. Well, one more thing, too, about Matt Lancer really quickly. As of the recording of this episode, the new Anakin for Battlefront has now dropped. So Anakin is actually a playable character. Dropped onto the scene.
Oh.
He's, dropping those
because that could have gone a lot of other
Jedi
ways. I'm just making
moves.
sure you clarify for people who have vivid imaginations.
Yo, Anakin in the house. But yeah.
Please don't say that.
But
Greetings, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, also known as James Arnold Taylor. Hey, it's a little of both. And you are on Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels. I have a bad feeling about this.
This week, our guest is an actor well known to Star Wars fans for his portrayal as Obi-Wan Kenobi on The Clone Wars, as well as his roles on countless other television shows and video games, including Plo Koon, The Flash from Young Justice, Cosmo and Yondu from Guardians of the Galaxy, Ratchet from Ratchet and Clank, Johnny Test, and Spider-Man, just to name a few. I'm, of course, talking about the one and only James Arnold Taylor. Welcome to Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels.
Hello there.
Wow, it's great to have you.
I have to say that. I'm paid to say hello. No, it is wonderful to be here. Yes, it is great. I'll say it in my regular hello there. I'm thrilled to be here.
Speaking of positivity, over the past couple of months, I've started listening to your new podcast. And
oh, thank you. I do these things called Jet Drives on my YouTube channel where I'd go for a drive and I had the GoPro up. People were like, oh, I just listened to them. And I thought, well, I guess if people are just listening to the audio, I should just try this podcasting thing. I love sharing with people and trying to kind of be a light and a guide to folks, no matter what they believe. And just say, this is how I believe, this is what I believe, and this is also my work, and tell some fun stories about my work. And that's what I do each week. It comes out every Wednesday. Came out today. And everybody has been, it seems like everybody's enjoying it quite a bit.
Well, I have to say it does reach across many aisles because I'm a Sith Capellian. So, it's, little different walk, but I still, take a bit from it. So, yeah.
Yo.
Hello, boyos. We are just weeks away from Star Wars Celebration Chicago, and it's time for more Star Wars discussion. Here's what is coming up on this week's show. Celebration announcements, viral videos, and sanctioned lightsaber duels. We'll get to all of that in this week's news. At last, we will reveal ourselves to the Scoundrels. At last, we'll have our continuing discussion leading up to the 20th anniversary of the Phantom Menace. Finally, we'll get to your feedback and silence fools. Thanks for coming back once again, Scoundrel Nation. This is episode 76 of Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels.
It's not a long time ago. It's not in a galaxy far, far away. It's right here, right now. Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels. The source for Star Wars news and discussions with your hosts, Dennis Keithley.
Truly, you have a dizzying intellect.
Jay Krebs.
Yeah, but it's custom. It's custom faded.
And Darth Taxus. Get ready for fast-flying, saber-swinging, hot space opinions from your hosts, analysis, and other stuff, fun stuff. I'm not your host. I'm just a generic, unpaid announcer.
Thanks, Mario.
Beware the Ides of March, springtime scoundrels. You've returned to the podcast that is blossoming with Star Wars goodness. I'm your co-host and show resident fertilizer expert, Darth Taxus, coming to you from the botanical garden of my flagship, the Assessor Collector. And with me are my co-hosts, who'd rather be pulling weeds than their hair, Dennis, the Phantom Menace Keithley, and Jay, the Hut Chair Krebs. Dennis and Jay.
Well, hey, Scoundrel Nation, Jay here. I'm telling you what, you talking about going out in the garden and pulling weeds, that is my thing. So I am so glad that spring is finally feeling like it's starting to spring. Yeah. Sprung.
No.
Yeah. Dennis, how are you?
I'm doing well. My yard needs lots of work, but we'll get into that some other day when we haven't had quite so much rain. But I can't believe we are just weeks away from Celebration at this point.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It's like lots of plans been made and lots of other things are going on, but I still feel like there's a ton to do. We've been talking about it. Jay, you got all of our buttons ordered, and we were talking about that a couple episodes ago. Just a reminder, everyone, that the podcast meetup, and it's a podcast meetup now because it's no longer just Retro Zap. It's your favorite, some of your favorite writers and podcasters from Retro Zap. Us, Kanata's Castle, Courtney Martin, Mike Harris, Jovial J. Shepard from the Superhero Suite, and others will be there. And we've combined with a lot of other podcasts, including Coffee with Kenobi, TheForce.net, and countless others. And this is, of course, that Friday night on April 13th at the Arc Bar at the Hyatt. So
it's like the Voltron of podcast meetups.
Exactly. And it's at 7:30. So
wait, that's Saturday, not Friday. You said Friday.
Well, Friday the 13th. Yes, it's Saturday, April 13th.
Just making sure that, because I know if sometimes I'm like, oh, Friday, and then I don't listen to the date, or I listen to the date and don't hear the day. So
exactly.
I guess the date is what matters. It's April 13th, y'all.
Yeah, Saturday, April 13th at 7:30 at the Arc Bar, which is at the Hyatt, which is right there by the McCormick Center. So this is kind of a come and go type of thing. No reservations are needed. And we'll be there, like I said, about 7:30ish or so till whenever everyone's done. And so come, hang out with a bunch of your other favorite podcasters and us. With that out of the way, what have you all been up to in the world of Star Wars lately? I'll go first. I've recently finished Queen's Shadow, which I've got mixed feelings about. I think it's a really good examination of the life of Padme and her handmaidens, but we'll be getting into a full discussion at some point in the future on this show. And other than that, I would highly recommend right now Darth Vader, the new Vader series by Dennis Hopeless Hallam, called Vader Dark Visions. Really, really fascinating stuff. It's kind of a series. It's about 5 issues long, and each issue is told from the perspective of someone who's been impacted by Vader in some way. And this first one is, without spoiling it, he shows up and battles a monster on a planet that has no idea who he is, and they completely don't understand what's going on. But very, very cool story. I highly recommend you check that one out if you're looking for a new Star Wars comic. Jay, you got anything going on?
Yeah, a little bit. I'm also reading Queen's Shadow right now, and I'm about maybe 118 pages or so into the book, and I'm really liking it. It started off a little slow for me, but I am really kind of getting into it now. So I really do hope we have a book discussion on that, because I think it'll be interesting to see some different perspectives both ways. Couple other things I've got going on. Well, my son, Colby Wan, has received his official Jedi robes and cosplay costume. I went ahead and I purchased one this year for him from Time Cosplay, and I really highly recommend it. If anybody's looking for some cosplay stuff, it's a little too close to Celebration now. We ordered ours about 6 weeks ago, and it's a custom made, but for the price, I couldn't have made it myself for that price with all of the materials that were in it and the time, to put into it and everything else. And it's super cool. So he's super excited about that. And I just received tracking information today that my cosplay costume is on its way as well. So it's a little Princess Leia twist type costume. That's all I'm going to say about that. But yeah, and again, I got to give a shout out to Kirsten. She's on her 3rd book now. So she finished Ahsoka, and she is now reading Dark Disciple. So I've got her hooked. I think I'm probably going to give her Queen's Shadow next once I'm done with that one. So
yay, addictions.
I know, right? I love feeding those Star Wars addictions.
And I'm kind of nervous now because you and Dennis sound like you're going to have differing opinions on this. And Scoundrels, I'm kind of afraid we're not going to survive that future episode. I'm just laying this out right here. I mean, For me, not really too much Star Wars-y. Life has been happening all over the place, and as much as I've been trying to snuff it out, it just keeps popping up. So, something kind of tangential to it. Did I say that right? Yeah, I think so. Have y'all heard of this thing called Critical Role? No?
I've heard of it, but
Okay.
not. Is that a tabletop game?
Well, it's an online kind of show where it's got a bunch of voice actors who get together and play Dungeons and Dragons, and it's got a huge following. And my kids kind of turned me onto it, and they were really excited because they went with their Kickstarter this past couple weeks, and they were just looking to fund one like animated episode of one of their very first very first web shows that they did. So they were going to take the game that they did and actually make it animated. You know what I mean? And the reason I'm saying this is because they were extremely successful. They've raised like almost $5 million last time I checked. In fact, just far beyond even their stretch goals. So people really want to see this happen. And the fun part about it is that it seems, I believe that the stories are going to be, or were written, I can't remember. Somehow Jennifer Muro is involved, if you remember from Forces of Destiny.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Right? And also the animation studio that did the recent little Star Wars shorts. I'm trying to remember the name right now. You know,
Galaxy of Adventures?
Thank you. That's the studio that's going to be doing the animation. So if you liked that stuff, why don't you just check out Critical Role when it comes out. So,
cool.
Other than that, I'm proud and pleased to announce that we have winners to our Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels contest.
That's definitely news to me. What contest?
Well, thanks for the setup, Dennis. And in case listeners at home don't remember either, generic unpaid announcer, why don't you remind everybody what the prize package is?
You win a non-expense paid celebration Chicago experience with Darth Taxus. Yes, you winners will enjoy offsetting Taxus's room and board expense for 5 wonderful days and 4 questionable nights in what will surely be a topic of conversation with you and your mental health provider for years to come. You will have access to the finest food and drinks that Taxus will take his middleman fees from, so bring a loaded wallet. And you'll learn amazing things like his weird and personal dating history or other life stories uncorroborated by living eyewitnesses, as well as how to play a game called State's Evidence. It's fun for all investigators from the local to federal levels. And if you're in the pursuit of fitness, you're in luck as Taxus' special, "Hey, can you carry this to the convention floor for me?" routine will keep you in the peak of physical shape and exhaustion. So whether it's scraping by with the 1 minute of hot water he'll leave you every morning and night, wishing you had at least a pillow for the floor, or waking up to ask, "What was that noise?" every 9 minutes and 59 seconds, you're sure to have an experience like none other. Brought to you by the good people at Bumjet Vacations.
Ah, yes, it's all true. And congratulations to our winners. Drum roll, please.
Lando Griffin. And name withheld.
So congratulations, and I'm sure it'll be a fun time for all of us. Mainly for me, just saying.
Yeah, congratulations, guys. I think the less said about that at this point, the better. So let's head to the news. As usual, Star Wars news this week is dominated by Star Wars Celebration announcements. So let's get right to it. Jay, what do we have going on first?
All right. Well, first off, we have a Star Wars Galaxy's Edge panel that was announced for Celebration, and that'll take place on Saturday, April 13th.
Not
This
Friday.
news... Oh, you have Saturday, April 13th. Wait, is it on Friday?
No, I was teasing based off my mistake of the podcast party, but go on.
What day is it?
You got me there.
What year is the day?
So this news comes off the heels of the announcement that Galaxy's Edge in Disneyland will open on May 31st. What day is the week is that? I don't know. And is in Disneyland's Hollywood Studios on August 29th. So we've got lots of dates, but we do have the panel at Celebration one of those days.
Yeah, there's been lots of news about Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah.
They've had a lot of the press previews for the lands right now. They're not complete yet, but they're getting close. I've heard interviews where people got to try all the different food that they're going to be serving there. You know, we've got the blue milk, the green milk. And so it all sounds amazing. We just don't have the time to cover everything about Galaxy's Edge right here in our news segment.
Right.
Not that we won't at some point in the future, but you know, the biggest thing that I heard was that they're opening both the parks in phases. And so when they open on May 31st and August 29th, it's only going to be with the Smuggler's Run attraction. The Rise of the Resistance adventure is not going to be ready yet, and that'll be opened at some point in a phase 2 type of opening. That being said, it's not going to be any less busy.
Yeah.
May 31st and August 29th. I've heard estimates of 10-hour waits to get in, just to get in to these sections of the park. Never mind how long you're going to have to wait in line for Smuggler's Run, and they're saying that they aren't even going to have fast passes for that ride at the beginning either. So
you just clarified phases. I thought they were opening it up with phasers, and I thought, wow, it's really going to suck for the people in the front of the line.
Highly illogical.
Yeah, that would be terrible. But the panel is going to have members from Disney's Imagineering and Lucasfilm. As excited as I am for Galaxy's Edge, I think this might be a panel I skip. Largely because I'm not sure. I mean, there could be some big surprise. I just imagine that this is one that would be easy to take in on a video replay at some point.
Yep.
Because you aren't going to be in the same room with, say, the cast of the Clone Wars or something like that.
Unless they do an Oprah and say, everybody here gets to go opening weekend for free.
My, wouldn't that be something?
Yeah, I'm going to risk that that's not going to happen.
And you get a Galaxy's Edge, and you get a Galaxy's Edge. Sorry.
Indeed. Well, with that said, Taxus, what else is going on in the news?
Well, I'm glad you asked me, Dennis, because a special deleted scene from Revenge of the Sith has made its way online and gone viral.
Sons at hard hands.
In this scene, Anakin is having trouble with his communicator and asks Obi-Wan if he can understand what R2-D2 is saying. What makes this scene a little odd is that Anakin flawlessly mimics R2 as he tries to figure out R2's directions. So all I have to say is...
It's very sad.
That's pretty good.
Thank you.
Yeah. So did you guys see this video?
I did, and I'll tell you, it almost seemed, gosh, I don't even know what the word is for it, but it almost seemed
surreal.
at first, I had to watch it a couple times
Hopscotch.
because I thought maybe this was just for fun.
Marshmallow?
And yeah, something like that.
Okay.
And that Anakin was actually swearing, and so they put the beeps over top of him saying something that, you know what I mean? Like he was using like cuss words.
Oh my gosh.
And so they were bleeping it out with R2-D2. So I thought, is this really?
Funny.
Like, what? Yeah. But it was kind of bizarre. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I was not disappointed that this was omitted from the movie.
Same.
It doesn't add anything to the story, for one thing. And so I don't know what tickled George's fancy to write that in the first place. But we never heard anybody speak droid like that before. We've known people who've understood it, but just have Anakin just beep flawlessly like R2 just didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, it is weird. I mean, because I always took their like real short bursts to be like entire conversations. You know what I mean? It's not like each beep or something is one specific word. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
What he says like might be like an entire paragraph of something, you know? Which I don't know. I mean, I always want to go with binary language, but it's probably not. It's way more advanced than that. It's probably trinary.
Yeah. Well, it's just a
quaternary.
You know, there was enough humor in that section of the movie anyway when the super battle droids find R2 and he sprays oil all over them and sets them on fire, and just some of the other moments that happen when they get onto the invisible hand and rescue the Chancellor. I just when R2 comes screaming out the side door after they're trapped in that ray shield, there's plenty of humorous moments that made sense given the context. So I don't know that they really needed that scene. So it's humorous. It's kind of funny to see out of context, but I'm glad it's not part of the official story
By
at
the
this
way,
point.
and I'm sure somebody's probably written about this, but this is the first time I've ever realized that ship was called the Invisible Hand.
Seriously?
Okay.
Well, I'm just saying that
Really?
that's an Adam Smith economics concept that I never realized that. That's funny.
Oh.
Well, if you I know
Economics is funny. That's all I'm saying.
I know Stephen Kent of the Beltway Banthas podcast, one of our Retro Zap shows. He was on. It's either his podcast, Beltway Banthas, or something he appeared on. They were talking about that at one point too. So really good conversation. Check that out. All right. Well, a Star Wars celebration wouldn't be complete without an animation panel. Star Wars Celebration Chicago is no different. Except it is. This year's convention features not one, not two, but 3 animation panels. Yeah. Up first is the Rebels Remembered panel on Saturday, April 13th. There's that date again. And this features Dave Filoni, Vanessa Marshall, Tia Sakar, and Taylor Gray.
Yes.
Then on Sunday, April 14th, we have the Clone Wars panel. At this time, the panel features Dave Filoni and quote-unquote special guests. And there will be an exclusive sneak peek at things to come. And we all know that, the new season's coming on Disney+. Finally, on Monday, April 15th, there will be a Star Wars Resistance panel that will look back at Season 1 and preview Season 2. Guests include executive producers Justin Ridge, Athena Portillo, and Brandon Alman. I'm hoping I pronounced that last name correctly. And then it'll feature members of the cast: Christopher Sean, who's Kaz, Susie McGrath as Tam, Scott Lawrence, who's Jaeger, Myrna Velasco, who plays Tora, and Donald Faison, who plays Hype. So, wow, 3 panels. And now as Orlando, they of course had the Rebels panel, and then they had that other animated panel that kind of featured the beginnings and ends of various characters from over different projects. So, yeah, this is kind of cool that they're giving them all their due this time around.
It'll be interesting too. I'm trying to remember, they have Rebels Remembered, obviously. Is the name of the panel. So I guess it's just going to be just a trip down memory lane, which I shouldn't say just a trip down memory lane, because of course we know how much Rebels meant to all of us, and I'm sure all the Scoundrels as well. But it is interesting that they're devoting an entire panel to this, though.
Yeah, someone had asked or was making the suggestion on Twitter that they may be announcing something for Rebels, but then Tracy Canobio chimed in with a response to that there aren't going to be any announcements for Rebels at that panel. So, hey, look, the Rebels panel at Orlando was fantastic, and I think you all had a chance to see the Rebels panel at Anaheim. And
yes,
anytime you get a chance to hear Dave Filoni talk about one of his projects, you should take advantage if you can. And of course, we all love Vanessa Marshall. We talked to her on a previous episode here. And then, as I've said in previous episodes, meeting Tia Sakar and Taylor Gray was one of my highlights of Orlando. So if you get the chance and you've got an opening when that panel is available, I would recommend it. So, Jay, what else is going on at Celebration?
Well, there's been more announcements of guests as well for Celebration. And the most recent batches include Aaron Kellyman, which is Enfys Nest from Solo, A Star Wars Story. So that's pretty exciting. $50 for an autograph or a photo. Ahmad Best, Jar Jar Binks from the prequels, $80 for an autograph or a photo.
Wow.
And I'm super excited about that one. Paul Bettany, Dryden Voss from Solo, $80 for an autograph and $85 for a photo op. Riz Ahmed, Bodhi Rook from Rogue One, $100 for the autograph and or photo op. So they're $100 each.
Wow.
Hermione Corfield. She is Taliesin Lintra Tally. Just call her Tally. From The Last Jedi. $40 for her autograph, $50 for her photo. Forrest Whitaker. Yay! Saw Gerrera from Rogue One. At this time of this recording, no autograph or photo price has been listed yet.
That's East Texas's own Saw Gerrera. Forrest
there
Whitaker.
You go.
I saw him drive by me outside of Mervin's one time.
Awesome.
It was.
And we have Hugh Corshi, who is Captain Panaka from the Phantom Menace. Also, no information listed as of yet. Katie Sackhoff, Bo-Katan from the Clone Wars and Rebels. So super excited about that one too. None listed yet for that on prices. Lee Towersy, R2-D2 builder for the sequel trilogy. Pretty cool. Matt Denton, electronic design and development supervisor for Rogue One.
Oh.
And rounding out this batch is Josh Lee, building supervisor and chief engineer for BB-8 in the sequel trilogy.
Wow. Okay.
We got some really exciting new ones here, and still holding for Hayden. Hashtag holding for Hayden.
So Josh Lee goes around and he's like, "Okay, yeah, BB-8 looks ready to roll. Okay, have you guys checked the plumbing out on floor 3?"
Well, I don't think he's quite that type of building supervisor.
Oh, okay.
But
all right.
But yeah, I mean,
when's this drywall going to be patched?
Well, I think we can draw a couple conclusions from some of these guests. I can't imagine that Hugh Quarshie won't be part of the Phantom Menace panel that's happening on Monday.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
I am trying not to read into the fact that Forrest Whitaker doesn't have a autograph or photo listed yet on the site, into meaning that there's going to be some sort of a Rogue One panel, because we also have Riz Ahmed there, and Alan Tudyk is also part of the show at this point. And then, of course, Katie Sackhoff could potentially show up at the Clone Wars or Rebels panel.
Right.
Too. So we'll see what happens. Very exciting for news to hear about all these. And I know Hermione Corfield is a good get. There's a lot of people excited to meet her because even though she didn't have that large a role in The Last Jedi, she kind of captured a lot of people's imagination as the A-Wing pilot. So,
oh yeah, yeah. Didn't she bite it?
Oh yeah, she was in the hangar when the missile struck, and that's when Poe's X-wing got destroyed and BB-8 went bouncing out without his head.
That's a tough one. That's when Josh Lee sprung into action to make sure that BB-8 was okay as the chief engineer, and also the sprinkler system was working.
I'm really hoping too, since Katie Sackhoff is going to be there, that Anna Graves is going to be announced too. So come on, we got to have a sister, reunion at some point. That'd be so great. But anyways, sorry.
No, it's okay.
I'm thinking out loud.
No, I'm sure they're working on it right now.
I hope so.
And something else they're working on. Star Wars Celebration has also announced a few new services for the convenience of attendees of Star Wars Celebration, and I am all about convenience. Let me tell you about that. I mean, maybe. I said that weird. Oh well, let's keep going. First, Celebration teamed up with Light Ticket Exchange as their official secondary market for sold-out tickets. Interesting. Second, a shuttle service has been established to bring Celebration attendees that are staying in a hotel to the official Celebration room block. That's nice. Hotels, excluding those in walking distance, have been divided up into 3 routes, with shuttles departing every 25 to 30 minutes. And I think we can all hope that somebody's going to hijack one in order to pull off a heist, right?
Obviously.
That's what Star Wars teaches me.
Right, but... we don't need to get too far into the details because you can go right to the Celebration website and learn more about these. I think it's great that they are setting up the resale site with Light. I have no idea what the fees are. Those are, you can basically sell your ticket back and they will take it and then they'll sell it to someone else. And then there's going to be some sort of a handling fee that's involved in that. But let's face it, you're going to have to deal with that, but it's going to save you, you're going to get the money back that you would have lost otherwise from just having to eat the ticket. We've seen Facebook groups where people are advertising their 5-day tickets or whatever tickets they have that they can't use anymore for sale. You get the added assurance that you got this company that's going to guarantee the purchase and guarantee the sale.
That's a pretty astounding turnaround because there used to be all sales final and everything. So I'm kind of glad they're moving that way. Because let's face it, I mean, the tickets go on sale, a year out?
Yes.
And a lot can happen from then to now,
Definitely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So I think that's
Life
really
happens.
Yeah, right? And I think that's kind of user-friendly. It's fun. Also, one other convenience. My 2 roommates will also be bicycling people to and fro. So for a very large fee. So just reach out to me, Darth Taxus, on Twitter, and I will get you all scheduled up.
Do they have rickshaws or something like that attached to the backs?
I haven't worked out the details. I left that for them.
Okay.
They don't know it yet, too, so shh.
All right. Well, and our last bit of episode 9 news, last bit of Celebration news. I just completely screwed up the story. But the episode 9 panel has been announced for Star Wars Celebration, and that is for Friday morning, April 12th. We all knew this was coming. As of now, the only people that have been announced for it are J.J. Abrams and Kathleen Kennedy as the hosts, and there are going to be more guests and surprises to come. So again, I don't think it's too hard to figure out what's going to happen here. We'll probably see Oscar Isaac, John Boyega, Daisy Ridley, Mark Hamill. I wouldn't be surprised if Billy D. Williams is going to be part of that panel since he's going to be at Celebration.
Sure.
And then we'll likely get the title of the film and the first official trailer at that point as well. So, awesome. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that they're ever actually going to announce who's going to be at this panel beyond this announcement, but don't be surprised. There shouldn't be too much of a surprise who's going to be there at this point. I guess someone asked Oscar Isaac informally the other day if he was going to be at Celebration, and he said yes, but there is no official announcement about that. So
I did see that. I did see that. Yeah, and this is definitely going to be one that I think people are going to camp out for because it's so, it's episode 9. I mean, come on. But that though, I've heard that Chicago doesn't allow that. Oh, really?
Now, I also heard that Orlando doesn't allow that, but then it happened. But apparently, now again, take it with a grain of salt. But reports I've heard is that they use a union to work McCormick Center, and they do not allow their they don't pay their employees and don't allow their employees to work overnights. So they can't have anyone stay inside, and the police are not keen on letting one camp outside. So it may be a situation where at some point you can come line up, but you aren't going to be camping out there. So
this is going to be like the Hunger Games of Star Wars on that morning.
Yeah, no doubt.
Awesome.
It's so true. I'm
going to be there egging everyone on.
May the odds be ever in your favor.
Now, I've also heard that the auditorium arena or wherever it is that they'll be having this panel is larger than the one that was in Anaheim, and that this will also be simulcast at the other 2 main stages. So if you want to see it, you should be able to get in to see it. It's just a matter of getting there early enough to get your, I don't know if they're going to do the wristbands again like they did in Orlando or how they're going to handle it. But, if you want to get into that theater, get there early. But, all right, but that'll do it for the Celebration news. Jay, we have one more story. Go ahead and fill us in.
We do indeed. And this is really exciting. Lightsaber dueling is now an official sport in France.
Called it.
Yeah, I know, right? The French Fencing Federation elevated lightsaber dueling to the same status as dueling with the foil, épée, and saber, which are the traditional blades used at the Olympics. So this is super cool. So a little bit of background, the duels last 3 minutes each. Part of the inspiration was to encourage kids to discard sedentary habits. Participants wear protective masks and armor, as in traditional fencing. And there is a dueling circle. So a little bit on the points here, some scoring. Strikes to the head and body is 5 points. Arms and legs, 3 points. Hands, 1 point. And the first to 15 wins, or the highest score after the 3 minutes wins. And a 10-point ties at regulation go to sudden death. First with a hot head or a body blow wins. And blows must originate from behind the fighter to count.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the best way for them to
really
originate.
Really cool.
You got to point the tip away from the body before you swing it forward to them.
Right, because otherwise it just becomes regular fencing. Just regular fencing. I don't need to diminish the sport. But it adds a little bit more artistic flair in there. And when you're using the sabers and it glows, I think they turn down the lights a bit to kind of add that element to it. So very cool. I think this is exciting news, and I keep meaning to see if they actually have any of these competitions online yet. I've seen lightsaber demonstrations at fencing competitions, but never actual sanctioned matches. Right. So this is cool. I'm hoping to catch one of these somewhere, and I hope that spreads to the States, because I've watched fencing during the Olympics, but it's kind of hard to follow.
It's very fast.
They go so fast, the referee signals for them to go. Then the next thing you know, there's lights flashing and both of them are celebrating because, someone landed a blow. They both land blows. It's just a matter of figuring out who landed first. So anyway.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Go ahead.
Thank you. My children used to take fencing, and that's the thing is I'm glad that they established all these rules, because if you were to follow fencing, it'd be really boring. I'm just saying from what you're used to seeing, because the rapier is designed to be a stabbing weapon, and that was significant change from broadsword combat that you think of in medieval time. And actually was more effective because as somebody's like busy swinging their broadsword, you're stabbing them in the heart, with a real quick move. So that's why it's real fast. And of course, it's linear because it's on the, I think it's Piste, or it might be just called the Pist. Whoa. I'm not sure. Can I say that here? I think so.
I think you just did.
Okay. And then so yeah, it's amazing how quickly you close the gap with it. But it's real fast. Like you said, Dennis, it doesn't have that art you might think whenever you think of like a duel, So I really appreciate how they're thinking this through. And I don't know, given the popularity of Star Wars, and there is kind of an underground popularity of fencing in America, but I think something like this could kind of bring it more into the light. So, yeah, there's my 2 cents. There's my 2 blows.
Well, there you go. Yeah, I think with this whole thing too, like you said, Dennis, you hate to say just fencing, but there's going to have to be some things that's going to set it apart because, like you said, the stabbing, the first thing I think of is, Palpatine with his blah, blah,
that was a very
coming right
maneuver.
at you.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Right. But originally, lightsaber dueling was based on, was it Kendoa, the Japanese style? It is more of a broadsword type thing. And I can't remember which lightsaber form evolved from that basically, but I would like to see that evolution of this is, going into different forms and actually having the different lightsaber forms as being part of the style and the sport itself, because I just think that would really set it apart. And, it would be something that would be, I don't know, kind of bring it all back together to Star Wars. But how cool would that be? I was saying, for kids in the States to be able to put that on their varsity jackets. You've got like basketball and bowling and then lightsaber dueling lightsaber.
Yeah, my kids actually were able to use that as a PE credit. It was of course, it was with a cue the Vivaldi, a private instructor. But they were still able to claim that for credits here in the great state of Texas. So fun.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, very cool. All right. That's going to do it for this week's news. We still have a few more celebration announcements likely coming in the weeks ahead. But otherwise, those are starting to wind down. For more breaking news, check out our friends at RetroZap, Coffee with Kenobi, Jedi News, Fantha Tracks, TheForce.net, and StarWars.com. On episode 75, we kicked off our discussions covering the 20th anniversary of the Phantom Menace with James Arnold Taylor. On this episode, we're going to keep the conversation going. But this time, we're talking about some of our own experiences seeing the Phantom Menace. And, we got the Phantom Menace at a time when we didn't think we were getting any more Star Wars movies. We had just had the special editions a couple years prior, which was awesome. But that's a discussion for another day. So, let's talk about what our expectations were and what it was like to get in and see the Phantom Menace for that first time. And Jay, we'll start with you. Do you remember what that experience was like?
I do, actually. I didn't get to see the movie until midsummer, actually, after it came out. Well, I was expecting my first child at the time, and my nephew was suffering from neuroblastoma cancer. And so he was in and out of cancer wards and chemotherapy in children's hospitals and that type of thing. And it wasn't until midsummer that he was well enough to be able to go. And he actually loved Star Wars before that. And, it was one of those things that I had shared with him. And it was just really special because at that time I knew I was going to be having a boy of my own. And so it was just really cool. And it was just really hard for him because even though he was doing well at that point, it was really hard for him to sit through an entire movie for that long. And he wanted to sit there and watch it so badly. And I kept looking over at him and he was smiling and enjoying it, but I could also tell that he was in pain and he was uncomfortable. So it's a very bittersweet memory for me. Just the fact that, of course, being pregnant with my first child and getting to share that with Curtis before he passed away was super special. So it was a very small theater here in my hometown where we live, and so there wasn't a lot of crowd, that type of thing. And I knew the Phantom Menace was coming out. Of course, I kind of had my eyes and ears on it, but my life was really kind of focused on other things at that time. So Star Wars was definitely not in the forefront for me at that point. But I did love the movie, and it, like I said, it does have some really great memories in that way for me the first time, and of course, first time I shared it with my boys as well. So.
Yeah, well, it's I can see why that would be leave an impression, considering the time of your life that was. But Taxus, how about you? What do you remember about your experience getting to the theater to see it the first time?
Man, I don't remember much, to be honest. No, I was just thinking about this, and it's like we were all avid Star Wars fans. My friend group and I, we'd play Star Wars Trivial Pursuit. We played the card game. What was that? Battle? Remember? It was like a card game, but it was a card collecting game. Dennis, you might remember?
I'm vaguely aware of it, but I never played it myself. I don't remember it that well.
We played the heck out of that. So we were all, of course, pretty stoked about it. And this was the last time that I actually got to stay outside in line. And I know I've recounted this story before with my friends, sort of like waiting for concert tickets to go on sale. Mm-hmm. We knew they were supposed to go on sale like 8 o'clock the next day, so we stayed out there all night long, waiting in line, had fun, gotten a lot of lightsaber duels with a lot of people, had a lot of good times. Might have been a lot of Budweiser, just saying, but that helped with the lightsaber duels. But it was fun, and it was also early in the Lady Taxus and I our relationship, so she did not stay out with us all night to get the tickets. In fact, I think the term "you guys are morons" might have been issued, but afterwards she did go with me that night, and it was really fun. It was awesome, and not just because I had a super hot girl sitting next to me that I couldn't believe actually was sitting at a Star Wars movie with me.
Well, I was married at the time. I'm glad you brought up the tickets thing, because that was one of the things I wanted to address was, there wasn't really online ordering for tickets when the Phantom Menace was out. I think it was just, if it was at all, it was kind of in its infancy. And I remember I took off work to get to the theater and buy tickets that day. And there wasn't much of a line at the theater that I went to. And so I got tickets. And of course, there was, all the theaters these days, most of the theaters these days have assigned seating now. You don't just buy a ticket to a movie, you buy a specific seat. But, we just had general admission tickets. So we had 2 tickets to go see this. And then right after I got those, I was at work and I got a call, and it was my wife and a former coworker of hers, and they were on it. It was a conference call. And this coworker had gone to work for Pizza Hut, which was one of the sponsors for the Phantom Menace. And they were having an advanced screening 2 weeks in advance of the release of the movie. And so she invited us to go to the advanced screening of the film, which was really cool. We got these absolutely beautiful tickets. It was the movie print, it was the movie poster printed on the ticket, and it had all this embossing. But we didn't get to keep them.
What?
We were all disappointed because we were lined up at this theater. I think it was the Irving Mall, was where the theater was, and they scanned them. Yeah, they scanned each one of the tickets as we went in, and then they put them in a pile. Like, well, we can't keep them. And the guy's like, no, George wants them all back. And we're like, really?
Sure. Scanner
George
guy wants them all back so we could sell them 20 years later. Yeah.
Yeah, but
you hear that, scanner guy? We're on to you.
Yeah, so we got in, we got to see the movie, had a great time. I really enjoyed it. The thing is that, I don't mean to be elitist, but that crowd was not the diehard Star Wars fans.
No.
These were people that, worked for the PepsiCo companies, Pizza Hut, Taco Bell, maybe KFC, because those are the ones that had the toppers that you could get, Phantom Menace that went on the cups. And, and so they were a marketing partner for the film. And so, these were people that got to go see it. And so the reaction was fine. But I ended up having a much better time 2 weeks later when I got into a theater that was a crowd of Star Wars fans, the diehard Star Wars fans, the people who had been pining for a new Star Wars movie ever since Return of the Jedi left theaters. And so that was a lot of fun. I remember seeing people that were cosplaying before cosplaying was even a thing.
Yeah, that's cool.
At the time. But so anyways, it was my experience was very vivid. I remember it very fairly well because of the circumstances. But did the movie live up to your expectations, or what were your expectations going into the Phantom Menace?
For me, I really didn't have any at that point. I don't remember really thinking about it too much. It was just, here was some new Star Wars, and I never thought we were going to get anything again. And so, like I said, I was in a very different mindset at that time, though. So I don't really think it sunk in that this was starting an entire new saga. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It was exciting, but I honestly just didn't know if it was gonna stand the test of time. It's like, well, I'll go see this. It's Star Wars, so I'll have fun with it.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, exactly.
Sure. What else have I got going on? I mean, so I think the biggest thing we were really excited about was finding out Anakin's origins. That was the biggest deal. Where'd he come from? Who'd he come from? Who is his people? How'd he meet, Obi-Wan, that whole thing. And so we didn't really have a whole bunch to go on. The internet was very slow at the time, and there was not much out there about it. In fact, just downloading the trailer online, I think, how long did that take? Like a few minutes or something? I mean,
No. It took all day to download that trailer for me.
Stupid, dumb people back then. Hate to live back then, right?
No, let me interrupt you for a second, Taxus, because that's one of the points I wanted to bring up, which was that I remember when that trailer came out, they attached it to just a few select movies like Meet Joe Black or whatever. And so
who went to go see that?
Oh, I did. But the thing was what they got you by they played it before the movie and after the movie, so that you would stick around and watch the movie. But before that, if you wanted to see it, it was, again, the internet was very different back then. And so you had, at best, a 56K modem for most people. And trying to download this thing, you had to go to, I think it was Apple's website, which, again, was not what it is today.
Yeah, right.
And so they were slammed on their end, and you had a very slow modem on your end. And I remember just taking all day to download that. And I was eating dinner when it finally finished, and I had turned up the speaker so I could hear it. And all of a sudden just started blaring out of my office. And so we, put dinner down, we ran into the office and, to watch it. And then I did not close that window forever.
Quick, before internet takes it away.
Because I didn't want to turn off my computer. I didn't want to reset anything because I didn't want to have to download it again. It took forever to see. But I'm sorry, I interrupted you, Taxus. Go ahead and finish up the discussion of your expectations.
No, that's cool. I mean, because I seem to remember you're unlocking all these memories, and I had friends that were a little more tech savvy than I was, and I don't think I actually saw it downloaded. I think, I'm just saying, while I waited, I think somebody had downloaded it and then somehow ripped it to a CD or something. Which, listeners at home, CDs are these round things that have rainbow reflections on them, and they work with magic when you put them into your computer. Don't know how to work it now. It's lost tech. But anyway, and so that's the one time I remember seeing it. It's somebody said, "Hey, I got the trailer. You want to see it?" Oh yeah, the trailer that takes a day long, according to legend. Yeah, let's watch it. Okay. So I remember it like that, and it was kind of pixelated when I saw it.
Oh, I'm sure it probably was. But it's funny that you said Meet Joe Black too, Dennis, because ironically, I just saw some Instagram feed just the other day that had pointed that out, that the people that went to go see Meet Joe Black actually left after the previews because they just went to see the trailer. I think they said 75% of the people that went. It was some crazy high percentage, but it's just ironic that you said that.
No offense to Brad Pitt at all, right?
Wait, yeah.
Was that Brad Pitt?
Yeah, it was Brad Pitt. Okay. Your memory is correct on that one. I sat through the movie. It wasn't the worst movie I ever saw. It was by far not the best. And then, but I was like, I am sticking this out because I'm going to see this trailer again on the big screen. And I'm glad I did. But for me, my expectations were pretty high heading into the movie because just the just the Jedi alone in the trailer and how acrobatic and how fast they were moving and how fast they were fighting and how light years advanced compared to what we'd seen in the original trilogy. And I was just super excited for that. However, I'll say this, just like a lot of trailers do, it did kind of give me somewhat of a false impression of how the movie was going to go. Because, the trailers got all the fastest, most action-packed bits. There was Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon rushing down the hall fighting battle droids. There was an explosion with battle droids getting destroyed. We got to see the N1 Naboo starfighters, bits of the pod race, and portion of the battle on Naboo. And then when you get to the theater, there was all this political stuff going on in the movie. And so, it kind of changed the tone a little bit. But, I remember getting out of that movie going, this wasn't what I expected, but I really liked it because it was, the pod race I thought was incredibly ambitious, and that was a good time. And then the fight we just talked about this on our lightsaber duel bracket episodes, between Darth Maul, Obi-Wan, and Qui-Gon was just amazing. How they just raged all over the place. And then now I hadn't had the conclusion of that fight spoiled for me with the soundtrack to the Phantom Menace because,
oh yeah.
You pointed out, Taxus, a lot of times, it says on the back, Qui-Gon's noble end.
Yeah, and Darth Maul's noble end.
Yeah, good. And so I hadn't ever seen any of that. And so I was not aware that I had a suspicion that Qui-Gon was going to pass, but it wasn't based off of any spoiler that. But anyway, I do remember coming out of that movie, and I was excited to see it again. And then I remember, I was going to have to see it, have to wait 2 weeks to see it at that point.
And keep your mouth shut, too, for those entire 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Well, the thing is that the book was out before the movie was out. And I remember going from that theater to the bookstore there in the Irving Mall and picking up a copy of the novelization. Did you guys buy the novelization for that?
Not until several years later, but yeah.
You know my feelings on those things.
Well, sure, but it's a collectible. And if you recall, they had 4 different covers for the book. They had one with Qui-Gon on it, I think Darth Maul, Amidala, and Obi-Wan. I ended up getting the version with Obi-Wan on the cover.
Oh, cool. You still got it?
And yeah. It's floating around here somewhere. My books are not in order at the moment.
Who is the author?
Terry Brooks.
Well, that's awesome. So is that on your list? I mean, have you ever been able to find him and get a signature or something? Because that would be a big skystalking moment for me.
That's a good question. I don't know that I've seen him around since then, or not. That doesn't mean he hasn't been. It's just I haven't noticed that he's been around. And I wasn't really anything like a Comic-Con attendee until just the past few years.
Right, yeah.
And so he may have been at one of those things. He did the Sword of Shannara series.
Yeah.
And which is one of his big claims to fame. But I enjoyed his novelization. I do. My wife Beth and I were driving from Philadelphia back to Dallas.
Holy
that
cow!
Year.
Yeah, did it take you a year?
About 24 hours.
Oh my gosh.
But to pass the time, we would take turns reading that to each other. This is before the day before audiobooks. Man, this is really a trip down memory lane.
Man, wow.
Internet stunk. There was no advanced ticketing other than going up to the theater to buy it. You had to wait in line. There was no pre-selected seats or anything like that, and there was no audiobooks. And so
first world problems, right?
And you had to wait till there was a long stretch of non-winding highway so Beth could read to you while she was driving, right?
Exactly. Well, it was fun because we were trying to do the voices and everything.
How fun.
So, yeah, well, and and to the extent they did have audiobooks back there, they were on 7 or 8 CDs, those silver circular things you were talking about earlier.
We had tapes back then. I don't know what kind of class you traveled with, sir.
Yeah, that's right. That car probably did have a tape deck, now that you mention it. But yeah, so anyway, moving on. What, when looking back on it, what was your favorite part of the film?
Okay, I'll jump in here.
Yeah, you do that. I have to think for a minute.
So I went in, we suffered through some, trailers, right? In a world, those kind of things. And at that time, I was thinking that I was just going to be a minor lord of accounting, you know? But when that scroll hit the screen, and I saw that there was a conflict over the taxation of trade routes, I realized then where the true power lay in taxation. So beyond that, I have to say that the thing that I really enjoyed, and still to this day, and I've mentioned this before, but you know, my dear sweet wife, she's not as into this as I am, and that's okay, because that's the least of the trials that I've put her through in our marriage, of coming up on, holy cow, 20 years. Wow. Man, I didn't do something nice for her. She's put up with me for that long. So the one time that I really, my favorite scene was in the beginning. I just have to say, I was a little confused by what was happening, because all of a sudden it's like, you know, hey, they're landing here and something's going on. Okay, what's happening? Why is a 11-year-old boy commanding the ship? Because, I don't know, I just didn't realize. I'm just saying, you know, I thought I was a kid, and I was like, okay, I'm confused. But then, plus Budweiser. But then whenever they got into the whole fight scene and everything, where, you know, they were waiting for the droidicas to show up, you know, and the droidicas came out there and started, you know, laying into them. And, you know, Qui-Gon says to Obi-Wan, let's go. And they, like, ran. And they did that force run, which we've mentioned before, Dennis. Where is that now? Please show that again, because that was so awesome. And up until that point, you know, we really didn't have, like, cool force, you know, action things like that, right? But we had video games. We had Dark Forces and things like that. And so on those video games, they had a little bit of a license, a Lucasfilm license, to be able to, you know, come up with powers like that, right? And so, you know, the Lady Taxus was sitting next to me. And of course, when I saw it, I was breathless, and I literally could not say anything, but I just heard her go, cool. I was like, oh yes, you and I shall be mates for life, whether you like it or not. And she didn't like it.
That opening scene was captivating. It really got you into the movie. I liked everything about it. I liked the fact that they got in there and, you know, you're talking about the force powers, but Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan were able to hold their breath for so long. Cool. The poison gas was pumped in there. And then, again, most of what we saw with Jedi came from Obi-Wan and Luke in the original trilogy, and they just weren't using that much power all the time. I mean, Luke fought off all the guards on Jabba's sail barge and the skiff, but, you know, it was just pretty much, he wasn't like force pushing or any of that. He was just him using his lightsaber. And this, they demonstrated a full range of powers, whether it was a force push, a force run, again, using the force to sustain themselves in the midst of all that poison gas. Yes. Although I do have to ask, what was Obi-Wan doing that he was able to spring down and kick the two droids? Was he like hanging?
Oh, that was awesome.
It was awesome. This day I can't figure out exactly where he was or how that whole thing went down.
That's weird.
Yeah, but for me, I think. Go ahead.
No, I'm with you, Dennis, because up until that point, it's like the Force to me was like your ability to play chess better than somebody else. You know what I mean? It was like a mental thing, you know, and it was more like a existential kind of higher level than, you know, our crude matter here. And so there was a certain amount of martial skill that had to go into the whole thing. But here we saw like fully, and that's another thing that I forgot to mention. We were excited about seeing like what are the full-on hardcore, fully trained Jedi able to pull off, you know? And so I don't think that movie disappointed in that immediately from the very first few minutes, we see what a Jedi Master during, you know, the Age of the Republic was able to do, you know? And yes, it was exciting. And that basically sold me on the rest of the film. So that's why it's my favorite part.
Jay, did you get a chance to jog your memory on that?
Yeah, and I'm sitting here listening to both of you, and you're bringing up so many great points, and you're absolutely right. I mean, Taxus, when you said just getting to see the Jedi in their prime, and I've mentioned that over and over again, even with the lightsaber duels, and we've talked about that, I know, in our lightsaber bracket and everything. And there's, I mean, of course, for me, the whole pod racing scene was just insanely fun because just hearing that you know, in the theater with that THX audio. And that was when I was kind of sneaking little peeks over at my nephew, and he was right on the edge of his seat. I mean, he just loved that part. But the whole movie was gorgeous, you know, in its cinematic presence. And I, of course, loved all of Padme's outfits and all of the costumes and all of the handmaidens and, you know, just the lore of here's this 14-year-old queen ruling this planet that is just so composed and so professional. And I wanted to know more about Padme and how she became how she was. And of course, I saw glimpses of Leia in her as well. And you know, just thinking about the way that Leia composed herself, but she was much older. I mean, she was 19 at the time. So, I mean, realistically, it's not that much older, but I mean, when you're talking about a 14-year-old, and, you know, of course I teach high school, so I see the huge amount of mental and emotional intelligence difference in a 14-year-old and a 19-year-old. But seeing Obi-Wan for the first time just made me smile from ear to ear. Just, it was like, oh, it's baby Obi-Wan. Oh my gosh, he's so adorable. Look at him go. It's oh Baby-Wan. Yeah. But you know, I really loved seeing the Naboo scenes too, with the battle droids and the Gungans and the MTTs coming down and the Boomas, and just that, like I said, that whole cinematic, the sky being so beautiful blue, and just everything with the photography was, I was enthralled. I mean, the whole movie from start to finish. And of course the music, oh my gosh, can't say enough about the music, Duel of Fates. And of course, you know, we could sit here and talk about all of the iconic scenes forever. And that's why there are so many people's favorites, including my own, you know, Maul and everything else. But just seeing the machinations too of Palpatine, and we will watch your career with great interest, and
that was
knowing
such a
what's
sweet
going to
line.
happen.
Yes.
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
And by the way, okay, so all of us old dogs, whenever we heard Senator Palpatine, you know, in the very beginning, we're all like, what? But I mean, do you think there were people out there who are like, who dat?
Oh, I'm sure.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because people knew him as the Emperor. I mean, there was very few people that really knew him as Palpatine, unless you were in it.
But how many people? I mean, did they have Palpatine? Like, I'm trying to remember. In Return of the Jedi, did they say Palpatine?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. It was the Emperor, and
Right.
Palpatine. The name Palpatine was introduced in essentially the expanded universe materials.
Yes.
And so, you know, we knew him as Palpatine. I remember the first time I encountered the word Palpatine, it was in a description for the Weston Games role-playing game for Star Wars, which was giving you like all these options. You could be a rebel and do this. You could be a pilot and fight for Palpatine. I was like, who's Palpatine? The first time I read that, and it wasn't until later. You know, one of the things you guys brought up was the sound, and that movie had so many iconic effects. Jay, you were talking about the pod racer engines, especially Sebulba's engine, and that thumping noise that it made. And then the one of my favorites is the impact of the shells against the Gungan shield, or just the shield even powering up. The sound of the when they're in the power area below the palace, and those I'm not sure what to call them, but the doors would close that separated Qui-Gon. You know, all of that, you know, that Ben Burtt's work, that he did that. You know, I was just looking at the Academy Awards for 2000, the 72nd Academy Awards, and, you know, it just blows my mind that he didn't win for that. I mean, it was nominated for Best Sound Effects Editing, and Phantom Menace was also nominated for Best Sound, but it lost to The Matrix in both cases.
Oh, geez.
Now, you know, I remember and I'm not gonna dump on The Matrix. It was a groundbreaking movie for its time, for some of the things it did. We kind of look back at it now, and to me, it just seems standard. Whereas I still look at, I'm a bigger Star Wars fan, and those sounds are more present in my memory than anything from I don't even know I can't remember what the sound effects were in The Matrix. Lots won it for it. Well, okay, wonderful. But you know, that being said, there's just so much to like with that movie, and it was a big pioneer in the amount of visual effects it used. It did have, everyone thinks that it was all CGI. And while it had a lot of CGI, there were plenty of models that were built for this, including the arena stands for the pod race. That stands out. And, there was Theed was built as a model. But just some of the things that George Lucas and Industrial Lights and Magic, Skywalker Sound, they accomplished. They didn't win the Oscar for it, but Industrial Lights and Magic and Skywalker Sound provide plenty of effects and sound for everybody else in the industry now.
Yeah.
And they really are pioneers. And so, I don't know, I kind of wish that they had got that retroactive recognition for everything that they did.
Hey, who was credited at the end of Captain Marvel? Skywalker Sound.
Right.
Yep. So
well, I mean,
there.
you see that for just about everything anymore.
I know, right?
Because they are the pioneer. And,
Kind of
and another
monopoly.
thing too, for me at the time, the whole relationship of Anakin with Shmi, as I said, I was expecting my first child at the time, and I was trying to sit there and think to myself, gosh, how would I feel if I was Shmi, giving my son up and allowing him to make that choice and encouraging him to understand that change is good, change is natural. And then now to go back and watch all of those scenes, of course, as a mom of two boys, it really puts a lot of things into a different perspective. And just like with all of the Star Wars movies, I'm sure that both of you feel the same way, that you appreciate different aspects of the story at different points in your life and with different things that happen to you. So I think that, not just Star Wars in general, but especially this movie, there was so much going on in this that I feel like anyone of any generation could appreciate at least part, if not all of the story, and then go back and appreciate it even more a second time or a third time,
All I know is that, so my standard for walking away from a Star Wars movie is, did I have fun watching it? You know what I mean? And basically, I have to check yes in everything that I've seen. Did I have fun? Yes, I did. Okay, I'm not some hoity-toity like film critic or whatever, and I'm just not that guy. I'm basically your common guy. I'm the market here, right? I'm the person that gets happy when I see the words Star Wars anywhere. Okay, and so I'm just a little sick of everybody kind of like just shooting down the prequels. Just gonna say that.
Do you want some of this?
It might be a hot space opinion, but get out of here with that, guys. Come on. It happened. It's a fun story. And I think if you listen to the previous conversation we three just had, you'll realize how right we are. Right?
Well, I think that's a good place to wind up this conversation. And I feel like we just kind of got warmed up, and we could probably talk about this for all evening, given the chance. And we will be talking about the Phantom Menace more going forward here in the future. And you're right, Taxus. I think all of us like that movie. This is the best Star Wars movie? Maybe not, but it was a lot of fun. And it was a welcome sight after so many years without a brand new Star Wars film. So, Scoundrels, we want to know what you think about it. So hit us up on all of our social media channels and our email at sqpod@retrozap.com.
It's time for
Silence Fools!
All right. First, we have an email from Jawa number 1 who writes, "Hi guys, I love your podcast. I just discovered you with your That's So Wizard episode.
Well,
It's a shame you didn't allow animated lightsaber duels in your brackets, because for me, the best duel ever is Ahsoka versus Darth Vader in Rebels. As much as I love Obi-Wan versus Anakin, Ahsoka versus Vader has more emotion to me. So for me, it's Ahsoka versus Vader hands down. As for your question about most anticipated merch, for me, it's episode 9. With JJ back, I know it will be an awesome movie, and I want all the figures." So first off, thank you very much, Jawa number 1, for writing us.
Yeah.
So here's the reason why I didn't include Ahsoka versus Darth Vader or Ben Kenobi versus Darth Maul from Rebels.
you can blame Dennis Jawa number 1.
Well, the thing is, the bracket had to be manageable. And
Yes.
if you go through the Clone Wars and Rebels, we would still be recording our lightsaber bracket. And the other thing is that, there's a couple of lightsaber duels we all remember from the Clone Wars and Rebels, there's a lot that you just don't. And sure, but where do you draw that cutoff is the issue. And I wanted, it was hard just getting the whole discussion into 2 episodes. And so if we included everything from the animated series, we would have like 6 or 7 episodes about this easy. Maybe you do like 1 episode on the first season of Clone Wars, but how many times did Obi-Wan, Anakin, or Ahsoka fight Grievous or Count Dooku or Asajj Ventress?
Yeah.
Right.
Or how many times did Luminara fight somebody? There's just so many Jedi in the Clone Wars. And then, when you throw Kanan and Ezra and Vader and the Inquisitors from Rebels, you just have a very, very, very long list of lightsaber duels.
Yeah.
That's not to say that someday we won't maybe do a bracket that we somehow figure out from the animated series, but that's going to take more research because I don't even know where they all are. Those fights are right now.
And also, rest assured, in some other universe, we have discussed this, we have included it, and we did select that as the winner. So feel good about that.
I don't know that would have happened. As much as I like that fight, I think I liked our result. And I still think one of those movie duels would have won. At least on my own personal bracket, one of the movie ones would have won. But I do love that Ahsoka versus Darth Vader duel in Rebels.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I had so much pucker factor when that happened. I'm just saying, I was sitting on the edge of my couch and I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah.
I think I was biting a pillow and screaming into it. So yeah. And Colby was with me at the time and he was watching me and he was like, are you okay, Mom?
No, I'm not okay, boy. Don't ever ask me that again. Just kidding.
Of course, the Resistance part of the bracket would be easy because there hasn't been any lightsaber duels there yet. But
true.
That is true. Well, let's move on. Thanks again, Jawa number 1. But our Twitter poll for episode 75, we asked which part of Triple Force Friday are you the most eager for, and the options were Episode 9 merchandise, The Mandalorian merchandise, Jedi Fallen Order, and then kind of a catch-all, which is the general Star Wars merchandise. So all the things that don't necessarily correspond to one of the new properties coming out. And our results really surprised me on this one. 13% said Episode 9. Tying for second with 27% each was The Mandalorian and Jedi Fallen Order. And the most people responded, general merch. So, I'm kind of at a loss to understand how that vote went out because we have no idea what the general merchandise is going to be. So, there could be something amazing that comes out that's not tied to one of these new properties, but, we're going to get, as we're talking about new trailers, and I'm sure there's going to be some sort of Mandalorian panel that just hasn't been announced yet. So we'll find out some stuff there, but that Force Friday is when we kind of get a chance to glean a whole bunch of things about the movies and things like that because of the action figures and vehicles and stuff that are on the shelves. So
well, it just goes to show if you give soldiers a general, they'll follow.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get to this week's Twitter poll. This is going to be really straightforward. Which of the animation panels are you most looking forward to at Star Wars Celebration Chicago? And the 3 choices are the Clone Wars, Rebels, and Resistance. So, Jay, of those 3, what are you the most excited about?
Clone Wars, baby. Oh, yeah. I mean, as much as I love the others, just Clone Wars has always been so near and dear to my heart. Clone Wars. Can't say enough.
All right. Taxus?
Well, I think Rebels, because they kind of left us with a whale of a cliffhanger there. I really want to find out what happens. I don't think the story's done, And
so you don't believe Tracy Canobio that they're not going to be announcing anything new at this panel?
Maybe there's not anything that's going to be substantial that's released, but I just can't feel that they would have an event like this, have a panel like that, and let's look who's attending it again. Vanessa Marshall, Taylor Gray, right?
And Tia Sakar.
Okay. 3 people who did voices for the characters who kind of progress, right?
Yeah.
Into the story. So I don't know. I just kind of feel hard about there's not going to be anything that's going to be revealed there, If there's not, then okay, then I'm not disappointed, but whatever.
Yeah, I'm taking Trace Kenobi at her word that they don't have any announcements planned for that panel.
And I mean, no offense by calling her fake news.
Sure. But I do think it's entirely possible that it is just going to be a Rebels Remembered. And if there's anything new that comes out of that panel, maybe it's a deleted scene from one of the episodes.
Sure, I'd take that.
Which is what I expect to see there. I want to see that panel. It's just going to depend on what else is going on at the time and what other, because we don't have, other than days that things are occurring, we don't know what all the panels are for every day and at what time. Sure. But that being said, for me, I'm the most excited for the Clone Wars panel for two reasons. One, I haven't ever had a chance to see a Clone Wars panel at a celebration. I got to see Rebels last time and it was awesome. But so I'm excited to see Ashley Eckstein and James Arnold Taylor and hopefully Matt Lantern. Sam Witwer is going to be there, so I'm assuming he's going to be part of that panel at some point. And then I'm guessing we're probably going to get a preview of one of the episodes from the season that's coming up on Disney Plus. And so that's got me pretty excited. Yeah. Nothing against Resistance, but as much as I like it, it's still ranks third for me amongst the animated series at this moment, and that may change after we get another season or two of the show. And we've been having a great time talking about it, especially the last few episodes as we've been getting into uncharted territory. And that's something that Resistance is going to have the potential to do that I don't think Rebels of the Clone Wars really did, because even though we didn't know the exact story, we knew the time frame that they were set in, and then what the ultimate outcome of everything was. The Empire falls, and the Sith take over, those type of things.
It's so Titanic, anyway, right?
Yep. But that. So this panel will be up soon on our Twitter page, and be looking out for that. All right. Well, that'll do it for this edition of Silence Fools.
As I look in the mirror this morning.
We're about ready to put a wrap on episode 76. So tell Scoundrel Nation what you two have coming up this week.
Well, for me, as usual, you can find me right here on Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels, and over on our Discord server page as well. And we're really having a lot of fun over there. So Scoundrels, if you haven't checked that one out yet, highly suggest that. And of course, you can always check out my archived blogs over at Coffee with Kenobi and my fashion review blogs on my Core Worlds Couture column as well. So that's it for me.
All right, and you can find me over on The Geek Supreme with Scott Murray, Jeff McGee, and Regina Davis. And it's a fun little game show style geek news show. So yeah, it drops every Tuesday or so. And I'll be there. Go find me. Say something, but if people see you saying something to your phone and it's not Siri, they'll think you're weird.
All right. Well, as for me, you can find my recent comic reviews on RetroZap. You can also find my comic discussion with Jovial J each month on Jedi Journals. I and my wife Beth and I are talking Star Trek Discovery each week on Warp Trail, so you can look for new episodes breaking down Michael Burnham's adventures exclusively on the RetroZap feed. Scoundrels, thank you for listening and for your support. If you've enjoyed the show, this has been Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels, and would love a 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcast, especially Apple Podcasts. On the other hand, if you didn't like this, please don't put us on a bongo headed to the planet core. We've heard there's always a bigger fish there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If you aren't already, please consider subscribing to the show wherever you get your podcasts. Have a friend that's interested in Star Wars? Well, then tell them about our show and help them find it on their mobile device. Word of mouth is always the best way to help the Scoundrel Nation grow. Thanks to everyone that's been helping us spread the word on social media.
Yes, yes, yes. And speaking of social media, Starship Sabers and Scoundrels can be followed on Twitter and Instagram at SCubedPod and liked on Facebook, where we are facebook.com/SCubedPod. If you want to follow Darth Taxus on Twitter, he is at Darth Taxus, Dennis is at DJKVER2, and I am at Joyce Krebs. Don't forget about our page on the RetroZap Discord server. I was just talking about that earlier. We will be there talking about novels, comics, and everything Star Wars. You can find links to that in our show notes and on our social media. You can reach us by email at scubepod@retrozap.com. We would love to hear your experiences seeing the Phantom Menace for the first time, but we welcome discussion and feedback of any kind. Emails, really good tweets, and iTunes reviews end up in Silence Fools. Again, our email address is scubedpod@retrozap.com.
And we are a proud member of the RetroZap.com podcast network. Please check out RetroZap for other great shows, including the Superhero Suite featuring Jay and Josh, other Star Wars shows such as Beltway Banthas, Kana's Castle, and Brews and Blasters, collecting shows like The Door Player and other great shows like the Animaniacast, the ArgCast, the Deucecast Movie Show, the Dunecast, Warp Trails, Techno Retro Dads, and We Know Nothing. Also be sure to check out our Scoundrels t-shirts on TeePublic. The link to our store is in the show notes. Hey, they won't give you a green thumb, but if you twist one around your hand enough, you may get a black one. And gotta say that by popular demand, there is a soon-to-come-out Law Jawa t-shirt. So yes, show your support for the law offices of UTNE and Associates.
Ooh. All right, well, thanks to Aaron Lay for our show logos and to James Volpe, the Sky Geek, for our The Good, The Bad, The Ugly show logo. And a special thanks to Mara and the Scoundrels players for lending us their talents.
And here is our disclaimer. Starship, Sabers, and Scoundrels is not endorsed, affiliated with, or sponsored by Lucasfilm Limited and or Disney. This show is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. All characters, music, and sounds are the intellectual property of their respective copyright holders, and all else is the intellectual property of Starship, Sabers, and Scoundrels, unless otherwise indicated.
All right, guys, any final thoughts?
Yeah, so I figured out what the Ides of March means.
Oh, really? Please tell us.
Well, it's unfulfilled promises to my wife.
I feel like that's not it.
Oh, sure it is. For example, I'd rake the leaves, but I got busy, and I'd chase off the ceiling squirrels, but squirrels scare me.
Alrighty then. Well, that's going to do it for episode 76 of Starship, Sabers, and Scoundrels. Thanks for listening. Until next time, may the Force be with you.
Apologies.
It's Can you understand what he's saying?
I'm not a protocol droid.
I'm pretty sure that beep is
I sense Count Dooku as a
Oh, you're right. Beep is I think.
That is fire trucking funny.